Welcome back to another episode of JRCtv, as well as the Learn It, Live It, Give It podcast. We're pushing this out to online. Today we're going to be doing a very special interview with a good friend who lives up in New York City. And to give her a proper introduction, let me read a little bit about her so you get to know her. Her name is Gabrielle Bernstein, and she's a New York Times best-selling author of May Cause Miracles. She appears regularly as an expert on the NBC Today show. She's been featured on Oprah Super Soul Sunday as a next-generation thought leader, and was named a new role model by the New York Times. She's the author of a couple other books, Adding More Ing to Your Life, as well as The Spirit Junkie, and her forthcoming book, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, called Miracles Now, 108 Life-Changing Tools for Less Stress, More Flow, and Finding Your True Purpose. She's also the founder of herfuture.com, a social networking site for women to inspire, empower, and connect. YouTube named her as one of the 16 next video bloggers. She was on Mashable's 11 must-follow Twitter accounts, Forbes' 20 best branded women, and she has a monthly segment on the Today Show as well as her weekly radio show on Hay House Radio. So without any further ado, please welcome Miss Gabby. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us this week. I'm very excited, and we've gotten to know each other over the last few months here and been learning about what's going on in each other's worlds and universes. And I'd love you to share a little bit of yourself and your story and your background with everyone tuning in so they get to know who you are and what you're up to.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be here. I love you. It's nice when you make a friend so quickly. You can just feel that connection so fast. So awesome. So I've been a spiritual teacher for the past decade. I've been teaching metaphysics and meditation and Kundalini yoga and meditation and metaphysical texts called A Course in Miracles, writing self-help books, as you've said, and really leading a new movement of new spiritual seekers and helping folks really expand the spiritual lexicon and establish a spiritual relationship of their own understanding. I moved in this direction to be this type of teacher as a result of my own dark night of the soul, my own big change and big shift that I had to create in my own life in my early 20s. So when I was 21 to 25, I was running a PR business based in New York City where I was representing nightclubs. So you can just sort of do the math and envision what that looks like. But it was very fast-paced. It was very ego-driven. It was very focused on the outside world, focused on what I can get, not what I can give, and really, really dark and soulless in many ways. And by the time I was 25, I was spiritually bankrupt. I was disconnected from my friends and family. I was disconnected from my highest purpose. I couldn't even fathom what that meant. And I was really focused on what I could get on the outside. And that intention and that energy led me down a very dark road. It led me down the path of drug addiction. It led me down the path of work addiction, food addiction, love addiction. And though my outside world didn't fall apart yet, my inner life was being destroyed. And so I had this beautiful blessing of having that dark night of the soul, that quarter life crisis at 25 years old. And on October 2nd of 2005, which happens to be Gandhi's birthday, I think I heard the voice of Gandhi come through me. And I mean that. I really do mean that. A voice of spirit came through me on that day. And I really said, I need a miracle. This is not working. I need a miracle. And I woke up that morning and I heard a very authoritative inner voice. You may call it your intuition or your inner guidance system or God or whatever you believe in. And that voice of intuition and inspiration came through really loud and really clear. And it said, get clean and you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams. And so I've been sober since that day, almost 9 years now. Wow. And I've immediately set myself on the path of being a spiritual student and rebuilding my faith. And I forgot to mention, much like you, I grew up in this world, so I was brought up in and out of ashrams and coming to your father's events and going to Hay House events, and my mom is a yogi and a metaphysician, so those seeds had been planted. So even if I had tried to redirect and look elsewhere, I knew where to go. I knew how to come back home. And so I found my way back, and through the experience of rebuilding my own life, I was guided to teach others how to do the same. And so that's really what set me on this path.
I love that. I love that. And you know, obstacles create us and build us and give us the lessons needed to become who we are, to lead who we need to lead and share what we need to share. And it's so true. I think there's a lot of people out there, and one of my favorite analogies is you see a tree and on the outside it looks so strong, meaning the bark's there, it looks strong. But if you've ever, I had a month or 3 months, a summer when I went and chopped lumber and stacked lumber, and there's some trees, it's very scary that you go to take a hack at with an axe, and you swing that axe and literally it goes right through, and you can almost kill yourself because it'll swing back around. And what happened was you hit the outside that looked so strong, but it was rotting from the inside out.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's very frightening because some people live their whole life like that. And to wake up from that and to rebuild from the inside out to create the strength and the ability to do what you're doing now in the world is amazing.
Yeah, I really like that analogy. That's beautiful. And I'm going to use that for myself because even though I'm a very small person, and I might look like a weak tree physically, I am a strong tree. I'm going to use that. Thank you. That's a vision that I'm going to hold. I like that. Seeing the core of that branch and that being so rooted. I think
and
that
the piece that connects with it is life. Life is either growing or dying. And if you watch trees, that's what happens. It's growing, 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 and the moment it stops giving fruit, it starts to die. And that's part of life. And I think that's part of our spiritual beings as selves is we're either growing and finding the way to expand and finding a way to become more, or we're slowly kind of withering back down. Mm-hmm. And you caught yourself in that motion. You caught yourself in the pattern of it. I'd be curious for people, just one little bit on what you shared so far, and then I really want to jump into what you shared with me. And you guys sent me a beautiful copy of your new book, which I've been so excited and reading through and picking up so many freaking gold nuggets from this that I really want to share a lot of what you're up to now with people. But for people who might catch themselves in their own position in life where externally they're looking hot, they're looking great, they feel like they're conquering Earth and everyone on Earth thinks they're so fantastic, but inside they really know what's going on and they don't quite feel right, and they know that they need one of those kind of wake-up calls you were talking about. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you could suggest to them that might give them a little bit of a shake or enough of a shake that could at least help them wake up a little?
Yeah. So as I said earlier, I teach Kundalini yoga and meditation. And the Kundalini yogi who came here, Yogi Bhajan, who came here to the West to teach us, had so many nuggets, like you said, of wisdom that he left us with. And one that is really a driving force of my new book, Miracles Now, it's really one of the most great influences in the book and the mission behind the book. He said, if your presence doesn't work, your word will never work. Right? If your presence doesn't work, your word will never have any meaning or purpose. And that our presence is our power. And so regardless of what we stack up around ourselves, whether it be the credentials or the financial success or the hot wife or the hot husband or the car or whatever, if we don't have, to your point, that grounding, that rootedness, and that inner presence as our greatest source of power, then nothing will work. Nothing will be sustainable. They say this in the 12 steps, anything you put before your recovery, you will lose, right? So the work that we as not just individuals, but as a collective consciousness must start to lean towards is this belief system of how can I elevate my presence? And as I believe as each individual begins to elevate our presence on a micro level, then on a worldwide, international, broad scheme, we will begin to see the elevation of the planet. We'll begin to see that there will no longer be a container to hold GMOs. There'll be no longer a container to hold war. There'll be no longer a container for so much gun violence. We will see that shift that we so desperately need as each individual begins to rise up to their power of their presence. So I think that just hearing that in itself is a redirect for people, is starting to make that decision, well, actually, my outside focus can't be the direction. I have to start to look inward. And I start to not just look inward, but make a commitment to expand that presence. So in this book, I wrote 108 lessons on how to expand that presence. So you can't really say, I've got a lot of tips to leave people with. But I think the first one is, as you sort of also alluded to, is just having that awareness. happiness is a choice that you make is the first lesson in my book. Happiness is a choice I make. And starting to become more conscious and more mindful and more aware of the ways that we are out of alignment with that energy field, with that source of power. And as we start to pay attention to the ways that we misalign, that's when we can start to use the tools and have the consciousness to come back into alignment. And so, a really quick tip I'd like to give your viewers is there's a tip in the book called Snap Out of It. When you notice yourself in that place of thinking with attack thoughts or a comparison or judgment or self-hatred or fear, I actually happen to be wearing a rubber band. Wear a rubber band and just snap the rubber band. In that moment, it seems jarring, but it will redirect you and it will remind you, I'm out of alignment. And in that moment, you can say something, you can give yourself some kind of mantra or prayer, I choose to see peace instead of this, or I choose to release this now, or I can see something greater, or something that is resonant with you. So getting into the practice of being aware of when you're out of alignment and snapping your way back in is a very easy first step to start to change that energy.
I love that, and it's so simple, yet it's so relevant and smart and meaningful. There's a chiropractor friend of mine who's up there in New York named Donnie Epstein, and one of the greatest things he taught me about my body, being a physical sense, is you have to become aware of your alignment. And he's like, I don't care how many chiropractors you go to, how many doctors you go see, how many ways you try to work out, if you're not aware of what's going on, you'll never know where to focus.
Yep.
And that's huge, to become aware. I love your example. I need to go get one, I guess. But I love your example because it's such a freaking little simple reminder to just snap out of it. It's brilliant, and it's something good that also is a good anchor to keep with you. That's very cool. And so 108 life-changing tools. I'm so curious, why 108? I'm sure it's a crazy question, but okay.
I was actually going to originally make it 111. I'm like a big ones person. I was born on 11/1. I believe the 11s are when the angels are watching us. But I'm also a yogi, and 108 is a very mystical number in the yogic tradition and in many metaphysical traditions. And it's a number of completion and cycles, and it's a power number. And so when we practice Kundalini yoga, we often will do 108 frog poses or 108 mantras. And so this is just really a nod to the Kundalini traditions, and it was going to be that 111 number, but it leaned right back to 108. So here we are. But also, I really wanted to give people a huge toolbox, because ultimately this is really a teacher's manual, this book, because my experience now, Yogi Bhajan also said, and this is what was probably one of the biggest influences for the book, was he said, I'm not here to create disciples, I'm here to create teachers. And that statement moves me to my core. That moves me, because that changed my entire mission, purpose, and intention for being here in this body at this time, to create teachers. The only way, it cannot happen on the individual level. We're now in the Aquarian age, which is a time for we. We're out of that Piscean age, which was, the one person standing on the podium with their microphone. Now this is a time for the collective. And people like yourself and myself are speaking with a loud megaphone, but everyone has their own megaphone in their back pocket. And so they can teach in whatever way is relevant to them, whether it be through a blog or through speaking to their children or teaching a yoga class or just talking to a bank teller. They are a teacher. They are a miracle worker. And so the intention of this book is to arm the readers with very easy, tangible tools that they can use on a moment-to-moment basis to realign, as we said, with that energy, but then most importantly, teach other people how to do the same.
I love that. I love that. Which, it falls directly in line with my thought of learn, live, and give. Learn what it takes to do what you want to do in life, live it fully, and really apply it and give it. Find a way to pay it forward. Yeah. It's very cool. Yeah. I have a question for our listeners. We research our community, and we always are asking, what are you interested? What are you up to? What are you curious about? What's important to you? And one thing that has consistently popped up is people feeling like there's so much they're trying to get done, never enough time, and their stress levels are always going up. Mm-hmm. And I know something you're amazing at is balancing that out in your own life, but it's also something you mentioned in the book. I read it myself, And I was wondering if you share a couple tips that you shared of how do people help balance that out when stress levels are going crazy, everything's going nuts, they're living in reaction in that moment. How do they get back to that centeredness?
Stress is a huge topic in this book. It's in the subtitle, How to Reduce Stress. And if we want to keep coming back to that conversation of how do we elevate our presence, stress is the #1 block to the presence of our power and that core. So it just depletes us, it weakens us, it lowers our immune system, it lowers our connectivity and our interconnectedness with the universe and the energy of whatever you call it, the cosmos, the universe, the energy within us and around us. And so the stress busting tools, there's 12 different Kundalini meditations in here. One great example is the meditation to prevent freaking out. So this is a great one for stress. If you notice yourself in a place where you're having a freak out, it's important to know that every 90 to 120 breaths through your nostrils, the dominant nostril changes. So if you just take a moment and you just identify as you breathe through your nose, which is the dominant nostril, maybe it's the right or the left, you can tell me as soon as you know. And anyone watching can do this as well. Do you know?
Probably the left, I think.
The left one. Okay, so let's say you're having a freak out. You take one moment, figure out which is the dominant nostril, and then through your consciousness, through your brain, your mind, you will switch the dominance. So rather than going like this, right, you're going to switch it through your brain. So that focus, that redirect, and that intention of switching the dominance of the nostril prevents the freak out. Simple, simple tools like this, right? In 1 minute, you can prevent a freak out by shifting the dominance of that nostril on your own. You can go back and forth. You go back from right to left. You're going like this.
I'm practicing switching my I've never consciously tried this.
It comes through your thoughts. So if you intend for it, then your intentions and your focus gets away from the freak out and goes right towards the breath. And that breath work, anytime we reorganize our breath in any way, we can come out of a freak out. We can de-stress. There's incredible tools, just a simple one. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. This one I love. You know, just do this. You do this before you go on a date. You do this before a job interview. You do this before you get in the car if you're nervous about driving. Peace begins with me. And that simple, easy mudra and mantra can get you there. Peace begins with me. So these are just sort of simple examples of how we can get out of that stressful place.
Random question. I know a lot of our listeners also are into relationships as much as they want success, results, achievement, and fame and fortune and everything else, and they want to be the expert they are, which I believe in them. I think it's awesome that people are creating their own leadership and like you said, voicing their message to the world. It's a beautiful time to see that. I know through our questions that their #1 focus is relationship, self-love, and communication. And I saw number 21, which is meditate for a date.
Yeah.
I think this might be something of interest to our people.
I have a meditation album I did a few years ago called Meditating, which is Meditations for Fearless Romance. And it's an 11-track meditation album that takes you through this whole experience of the first 6 or 7 meditations are geared towards forgiveness. Self-forgiveness and forgiveness of the other person. Because unless we clear out the garbage, resentment, and attack from the past, we cannot have a clean slate for calling in the romance or the love that we want in this present moment. There's also a lot of own personal self-reflective healing in those practices. And so this lesson gives some of those meditations, and it really gives the reader a greater understanding of how self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others is the key to establishing a clear environment to call in a new partnership. And really a lot of emphasis in the book is also placed on if you don't support yourself, you can't expect other people to support you. So it's a lot of, stopping. I think the biggest lesson I teach when it comes to partnership or collaboration or connection is to stop pointing the finger at others and always point the finger back at yourself, and not from an attack place, but from a self-reflective place, from taking an inventory of your own behavior and saying, what is my part? We were talking about this just earlier, how I had a bit of a blowout experience with my husband last night. And we don't fight, so when we do, it's pretty wild, right? And it was really, for me, just having to keep coming back to what is my part? What is my part? And, making sure you're always being heard and you're giving yourself the opportunity to speak your truth as well. There's a lesson actually in here is that you speak your truth with loving kindness, and that's how you will be heard. there's lots of lessons in this book that are related to partnership, collaboration, and connection. And so just some of the hot points there, if you're feeling unsupported, make sure you're supporting yourself. If you want to be heard, speak your truth with loving compassion and truth, right? Yep. And then really the emphasis of forgiveness comes through in everything I teach, because forgiveness really is the bedrock of a spiritual practice and living a life of freedom. Forgiveness gives us freedom in our own life, in our relationship to ourselves, but also in our relationship to others.
Absolutely, absolutely, it's so true. And I'm excited about this book for people, just because, like you said, people nowadays, and something I was mentioning is people are so freaking busy and there's so much going on, and I'm a huge, huge advocate of daily habits and rituals. Mm-hmm. And it started with me learning from my dad the hour of power, setting up your hour every day to build yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and get out there exercise-wise. And it's funny because I share that with people, and they're like, an hour every day? And what's interesting is, even 3 minutes now on YouTube seems like eternity for young people. Yes. And one of my favorite parts of this book, really, truly, is you chunked it down, and I think you even mentioned this in there, that people want to be able to do 30 minutes of yoga a day, an hour of meditation. But in reality, for how much we're trying to cram hours-wise into our day, that time really doesn't exist. And I'd be curious if there was any other reasons of how you created these tools, because there's such bite-sized pieces, but they're so rich with wisdom, so rich with purpose, so easy to apply in the moment. It's genius.
Well, Jairek, I write my books based on what I feel my readers need, and I listen and I hear the call. Much like you, I mean, you take inventory. Like, you're awesome. I just sort of pick up on the zeitgeist, and I feel the vibe, and I sense what's coming up in lecture audiences and questions and on Facebook and Instagram, and I see the comments, and I kept getting this hit from people. How do I do this fast? How do I clear this now? Not that there's anything wrong with 10 years of therapy, because I think that in conjunction with these tools is amazing. Or that we should not aim for that hour, that power hour. I think we should aim for, but in reality, not everyone is living and breathing a personal growth practice like we are, and so and they're not necessarily going to have that hour to carve out in their day. And as things speed up, and as technology speeds up our brain and our nervous system and makes us so much more susceptible to chaos, we need tools for reorganizing now. So that's where the title came. We need a miracle now, not 10 years from now. And so these tools are all about adding up those moment-to-moment miraculous shifts. And in those experiences of adding up those shifts, that's when you start to live a miraculous life. And so I think it really will help people demystify having a spiritual practice. And I've noticed a lot of people in my community feeling like their spiritual practice becomes a chore and starts to become another form of overwhelm. And so the intention of this book was saying, let's not let that happen. Let's let this be something that you can turn to in any given moment, so that you can have a great radical shift, and that you can have that peace come in instantly, and not have to feel as though it's going to take a decade to get there.
I love that. And it's so true, and it's so now of what people want and need, because craziness is happening now, and to practice your meditation for 5 months to hopefully get a miracle then probably won't work. It will work, but that's not when you want the miracle.
Yeah, and I think that we also are like an immediate gratification kind of community now, and I think that there's, we have to, as teachers, we have to ride with the age and the essence of the times. And so, I've been gifted with this technology, Kundalini, and prayers from A Course in Miracles, and I've been given these blessings that have come into my life, and I'm getting the hit as a teacher, and the guidance that's coming through me is, make it bite-sized, make it easy, make it tangible. This is what this era needs. This is not an era of silent contemplation. This is an era of fast change.
Yep. And it's an era of action where people are doing stuff now. They want to grab something, they want to do it, and they want to make more happen with it and see what they can produce.
And sharing. A big thing I did is every lesson in the book is boiled down to a 140-character tweet. So the bigger message here is, you are the guru. That's the last lesson. You're the guru. Carry the message. And so there's 108 Instagram images, which I can share with your readers if they want to use them. They can download them and share them. And it's, it's a way of carrying the message, which is really, once again, we can spark the light, but who's going to carry the light? And that's my hope and my intention, is that this book just becomes real light force within the world, that people just start to spread the message.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that's a core of what we stand for over here, which is learn it, live it, give it. Really soak in what you need, really apply it in your life. Make sure you get the results you deserve and desire, and go out there and find a way to pay it forward. The world needs it. We need it. Our friends need it. Our neighborhoods and our families need it. and whoever's listening and watching and tuning in, we need their help and your help watching this to help spread that word and to be that guru and to be that expert to keep that message moving.
Yeah.
The final question I asked, which I kind of throw out there randomly, but I'll never forget, I got to attend when you were doing an event in New York City at one of the churches there, and it was beautiful. And one of my absolute favorite parts was, I don't even remember what sparked it, but you invited a couple people literally just to ask a question. And I think there was a couple ladies who stood up, and it was amazing what they shared of what happened in working with you, or I think it was either reading one of your books or attending a workshop or something that happened that literally transformed their spirit, who they were. They had become an author. They, I think, had transformed their life. So many beautiful things happened. And I would ask for people tuning in, just so you know the depth of what happens when you go through, a course like this or a book like this. I'd love if you share just a quick couple minutes on your favorite experience of someone that has really touched you, that read one of your books, was moved by it, and just what happened in their life journey because of it.
I've seen it all, right? I think you put yourself out as a teacher for 10 years, and you will inevitably get feedback. And I've been blessed to receive just tremendous feedback. I think the thing that moves me the most, not that any of it is any greater than anything else, but I've seen a lot of people get sober as a result of reading my book Spirit Junkie, which is really, if anyone's out there listening and they're dealing with addiction, I recommend Spirit Junkie, and really any of my books will help with addiction, but that one really, really touches on it. So seeing people get sober, seeing people put down the drink and the drug or the sex or whatever it was, is such a big deal to me when I see it, and I'm always moved to tears when I hear people stand up and tell those stories. Hearing people forgive their family members that had been abusers. The stories are just mind-blowing, Jairek, and you see them in your own world. They're just mind-blowing. And whenever I'm asked what inspires me most, my response is my audience members. The people in my audience that have the willingness to change and the commitment to do whatever it takes, those people inspire me the most. And they keep me so energized and so fueled and so on point and on purpose. And so a big shout out to everybody in this community that's showing up for themselves today. Anyone that is on a path of personal growth and development, God bless you. I support you, and you people who are out there watching this type of interview right now are the people that inspire me the most.
That's beautiful. That's very, very cool. Well, I'm excited to share this with the world. We're going to be sending this out, so if you're watching this video, thank you for taking the time to check out JRCtv. I am excited. I've gotten my personal copy, which thank you for sending me. Miracles Now with Gabrielle Bernstein. And I'm going to be buying copies for my grandma, my mom. I'll probably send one to my dad, see if I can catch him. He moves so much that every time we send him something, it disappears. But now they have Kindle, so I can get him.
Up there.
So thank you so much for joining us. If there's any final words that you want to share with anybody, we'd love to have them.
Yeah. Well, I did a 3-hour workshop called Manifest Miracles Now, and it's a gift when anyone orders the book. So we'll give them the link as well, but if they go to my website, Gabby, GABBYB.tv/miracles, and we'll put this in the link below. That link will get you an opt-in to get that 3-hour workshop plus some additional gifts, but that's a really good teacher's manual that goes along with the message of this book. So it's 3 hours talking about manifesting miracles, and you just submit your order form and your receipt, and you grab that for free. So that's a nice way to just sort of guide you on your journey. And I just once again want to honor everybody that's watching. I think that it's such a big deal to be able to show up for yourself and listen to an interview like this. That's a radical act of self-love and self-care. And a big, big shout out to you. I'm so honored to be able to do this with you. I love you, and I look forward to many more collaborations with you. So.
Thank you for joining us. For people who are getting ready to buy the book, very exciting. She said it's a 3-hour workshop she did. It's a free gift for buying the book. All you have to do is submit your receipt. One more time, what was the website they go to?
It's Gabby, GABBY.tv/miracles. We should definitely just drop it in the YouTube link below, and they'll just click on it. We'll get there. Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll make sure it's in the YouTube link. We'll make sure we somehow connect it to the podcast link. It'll be all over our blog. And please click that link, grab a copy of the book. Actually, I always prefer, if you're watching this, grab 2 copies of the book. Grab one for yourself and grab one for someone you love or know, and pay it forward immediately and ask them to do the same.
Carry the message. Yep.
So thank you for tuning in for another episode of JRCtv and the Learn It, Live It, Give It podcast. Hope you have an amazing week, and I can't wait to see you next week for another amazing episode. See y'all later. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.